It's going to be an exciting night. I have some great young people that have joined me tonight to talk about social entrepreneurship and just doing missions as business. And so I'm excited about having them and hearing about the work that they've been doing. Some are just starting out. Some have done mission trips and came back and really coming up with some ideas that can help in third world countries, in Jamaica, and in the continent of Africa. And so I'm so excited to have them here. And then I have Scott Chevalier. When you see that PH, know that that is Scott Chevalier. So know that that is him. He's having some technical difficulties with his camera, but he is here. And so I'm so glad that he could join us tonight. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by having you guys introduce yourselves. I have a group of students from Lipscomb University, and I'm so glad to have them here, and so glad that my friend Rob from Lipscomb University was able to connect me to some students there to talk about the work that they've been doing. So I'm going to start with you guys and have you introduce yourselves.
Okay, my name's Alicia Calkins, and I'm a senior at Lipscomb. I am studying sustainability and minoring in biology, and just started taking business as mission this semester and being involved in Jamaica. So.
Great.
I'm Alexandria Arnette, and I'm double majoring in corporate management and social entrepreneurship with a minor in missional entrepreneurship, and I'm a junior.
You're a junior. You guys are getting ready. So Dylan is our last one to introduce himself. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Dylan Greene. I'm a senior at the university. I play basketball, and I do not have a minor. So just to give you a quick overview of what we're doing,
yes.
Basically all three of us are in a business as mission class called Missional Entrepreneurship. And in Missional Entrepreneurship, our job is to help and aid and set up sustainable business practices for people in third world and developing countries. So our class took a pre-survey trip, which Alicia and Alexandria joined us on. And when we went and met with 3 citizens to help start a restaurant, or a food truck, a art business selling his artwork, and also kind of a concession shop or a restaurant for an older lady.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to asking a few more questions about what the work that you guys have done and what inspired you to do that. I'm going to move on to Esther. Go ahead, Esther.
Hi everyone, my name is Esther Phambu, and I am a freshman here at New York University, and I've been here for about 2 months now. I just moved from Nashville, and I miss it so much, so it feels good to hear everyone from Nashville.
Great.
I forgot to introduce what I do. So I have a social enterprise, which is called Esther and Zuzi, which is after my first and middle name. And I started about 3 months ago, and it basically aims to inspire women and girls to develop an appreciation for themselves. So we really encourage self-expression.
Great, great. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that work is and the products and services that you're offering.
Definitely.
Scott Chevalier.
Yes, I like to use logos to show my image. So that's who I am. My name is Scott, and I think I'm the old person here. This is really interesting.
I wasn't going to say that.
I am a senior. I'll just say that. I did go to college. I have a communications and Christian education degree. I have been working on a program to empower students to achieve their dreams, whatever that might be, and to give them the platform to achieve that, so they don't just have the dream, but they know the process to get to that dream. And whether that be small business or something else different in their life, giving them the tools to do so. So that's what we're working on.
Great. Thanks, Scott. So we're going to just start off. I received some questions, and so we're going to jump right in and ask you some of the questions. Some of them I'll direct it to different people, and some anybody can jump in and answer. So I want to ask, how did you get involved in missions? Because I think one of the things that inspires people to really try to start a social enterprise or mission as business is because they've done a mission trip. So I don't know if that was your inspiration or what it was. So I'm going to start with Lipscomb Group, and just tell me what inspired you guys to want to even start a social enterprise or help that group start businesses in that area that you're in.
All right, so all of us joined the missional entrepreneurship class that I mentioned earlier, and kind of an open-ended thing because there was no description about the class. Most of us knew Rob Touchstone, who runs the Well, and some of the work that he's done. And so within the class, they gave us the opportunity real quickly to join on a mission trip. For myself, I'd never been to a developing country. As a Division I basketball player, I never had the opportunity, the freedom to just leave the country even for a week at a time. So I actually got injured past January, and so this year I'm unable to play till next season. But I got the chance, and I was just ready to be exposed and allow God to do whatever He had planned in me.
And well, in high school,
Looks like it's cutting you guys off. Go.
Okay.
It was cutting you off a little bit. Go ahead.
So I did like a week and a half long trip to Africa, to Ghana, and we were in the capital in Accra. And I had done some like local mission stuff with like, it's more like urban ministry with kids that go to shows, like local shows, so it's the local music culture, and just like loving kids where they were and just trying to show them that they do have value and that they are loved by the Lord. And then coming to school, just being able to take the class, my advisor said, hey, you should take this class, and I kind of just like, did it, prayed about which group I should join in class because we have a couple different options. And I chose Jamaica, and now, we had the chance to go on the pre-trip and just did it, and like, I don't know, the Lord's doing so much, it's awesome. So
I don't know. Can you hear us? No, just talk.
Well, I grew up doing volunteer work and being heavily involved in my community, and so when I got older, I went on some mission trips to the Baja in California and really got involved with that. And so going from there, I knew that that was something that I wanted to do long term. And so this class has been a great opportunity to incorporate business and doing mission work and doing just good work all over.
I don't know if we're still frozen.
I don't know.
And it's cutting you
Okay.
out, so I'm gonna move to Esther, and then I'm gonna come back to you guys. Okay?
Oh, there it is.
Esther, if you'll share just your
It's like,
journey and how you got involved in doing social entrepreneurship.
could you repeat that question? Sorry, it's like breaking on and off.
Esther?
It's like breaking. I can't hear that well. Miss Yolanda? Hello?
Frozen.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay.
It's frozen?
I can hear you. Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
I
it's
can
frozen.
hear you.
Okay. So about 2 years ago, my family and I went to the Democratic Republic of Congo, and my mom is from there, and she has her nonprofit there, and so she was having a mission trip, so my brother and I decided to go along, and during the mission trip, everyone was supposed to, the challenge was for everyone to be able to share a message with the people of the village. And when it got to my day, I was kind of surprised because I thought that because I was the younger child there, I didn't have to go up and give a message to the woman, but my mom made me. And I was freaking out so much because I was trying to figure out how in the world am I going to inspire someone, like an older person from there? Like, what am I going to say to make them feel appreciated and loved? And but God gave me a message, and I just preached on how God believes that they're worth so much. And I shared with them Proverbs, I think, is it Proverbs 31:30, the woman?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And once I gave it, at the end, everyone started crying, and that's when I realized that I could inspire women and girls everywhere, no matter where I come from, or like our experiences are all the same. And so that just kind of inspired me to start my social enterprise.
Great, great. Thank you. Scott, can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with young people?
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of reflecting on what they were talking about, because if I put myself in their shoes, I remember a direct intersection in my life where everything changed, because I was a computer science major. Mm-hmm. And of course, my camera doesn't work. I should have stayed in the degree program. I was at a Christian college and was sitting in a chapel service, and Dr. Tony Campolo from Eastern College came and spoke. And in the middle of his service, he spoke and said one message. I'll never forget the phrase. He said, "Why do you want to go do what everybody's always done when you could do something different because you're unique?" Mm-hmm. And when he said that, it made me uncomfortable. And I walked around the campus. I was a sophomore at that time, for about 4 hours by myself. And it was at the end of that summer that I went on a missions trip to Monterrey, Mexico. And I really didn't want to go because I needed to raise the money for college during the summer, but I went. And during the last moments of that trip, after I had led Bible studies and helped set up some churches in the area, I was getting ready to get on a bus to leave, and a young boy stepped in front of the bus and waved his hands at the driver and said something in Spanish, and I didn't speak Spanish. I took French in high school, which was worthless to this day. Said he wanted me to get off the bus. And so I got off the bus and made my way to the front of the bus, and he took his shirt off and he handed it to me and began to speak in Spanish. And he asked me for my shirt. And so I handed him my shirt, and then he embraced me and thanked me for everything I'd done that week. And I sat back in the bus, and needless to say, I think I was a wallowing basket of tears at that point. But I'd realized just how much a difference every individual life can make, and made a commitment from that point that I was going to live that type of life, that I would not live a life just for a paycheck, but I would live a life to make an impact. And that's kind of been the springboard. It's been the springboard for what I do. And I don't know if that answered your question. Did you ask me that, what they were saying, or did you ask me something about Powerhouse?
Yeah, that was a great answer. Absolutely. Okay. Because I think all of our journeys are different. Reason why we do what we do today is because of the journey that we've been on, and we, like, I've been in corporate America, I've been in non-profit, I've been in ministry, and my working with social. Scott, I'm going to come back to the Lipscomb students again, and I'm going to ask you, during your trip to Jamaica, what was the one thing that you left with that just changed you because you did work there in that community? Tell me one.
Well, so there's one woman that we met at the church who wants to open up her.
Change your life while you were there, or something that stuck with you that you.
Okay. So one woman that we met at the church that we went to on Sunday while we were there for the weekend, she wants to open up a shop. She has like a little shop on her property already, but it's closed. And so she had waited for years and years, like I think more time than we honestly understand. And she's like, "You are answers to my prayers that I've been waiting for." And like she has been struggling this whole time. So just meeting her, seeing her passion, and like how the Lord's been working in her heart and her life, like that's something that I'm like, I'm ready to move there. Like I'll go there and like help her however. But just kind of wherever the Lord leads with that, I was blown away by that. And just the people, like I don't know, they seem like they're so thankful for us to want to like help out however, which is crazy because it's like we're so blessed in return with that. So I don't know.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Dylan?
Sure. So for me, I always wanted to do mission work, and I kind of grew up understanding that your Christianity or whatever your belief and relationship with God is can't affect your work. You can't be a part of it. You can't run that type of business because of different laws, because of the opposition it causes, because of the fines and the issue it creates. So having the opportunity to create, you know, that type of business for them, or even see, you know, that lived out by you know, this opportunity has exposed me to different things, and it's changed my life, seeing people living in poverty with positive attitudes and seeing the mass consumerism of the United States and understanding, like, there are people in need. I don't need the next pair of Jordans. Like, there's something else I can buy and spend my money on. There's something else I can spend my time on that can really change someone's life.
Great, thank you.
It was just really neat to see that there's not a whole lot of opportunity in Jamaica for them to have a job or anything like that, but that we can go and I mean, like Esther was saying, we can go and empower people. And a lot of times when we think of business, we don't think of, you know, empowering people and building people up, you know, even incorporating faith into it. But that's one of the things that we've come to see, and especially on our short trip that we made, and we'll be going back in a couple months, but already beginning to see how we can incorporate all those things together and just really build relationships and help them and help their communities.
Great, thank you. Esther?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. It's like, what one thing that stood out for you when you were during your trip in the Congo that made you want, like, was it a child that you saw that had a need, or young girls that you saw that had a need? I kind of know a little bit about the work that you guys did there, but what was the one thing that's like, I have to go back and start something that you saw that made you want to do that?
I think definitely the passion that everyone had to, like, everyone was getting up early in the morning and going to work, and that just inspired me. We went to see the women. They have like this little sewing machine group that they have, that they meet up and they learn how to sew. And just to see them getting up early, like really early, like 6 a.m., and going to learn how to sew so that their children can have clothes to wear, I just thought that was so inspiring.
Right. Talk a little bit about Esther, the Esther Nzuzi, and what you do through that enterprise.
So right now it's still like in a startup phase, so we're still trying to get everything together, but we sell handmade bags from the DRC Congo, and we put the money, at least half the profits from each purchase, into this sewing machine program that I was just describing, so that the women can have more sewing machines, access to better sewing machines. And our goal is for them to make uniforms for all the children in the village, because the children, my first day there, when we went to go visit the school, I saw that only like 1/4 of them had uniforms, and the others barely had clothes. So we're trying to get them to sew those clothes.
Right. Okay. Scott, I want to ask you a question about, what have you seen with young people that deters them from feeling like they can start something? What is the things that you've seen that has been a pushback for young people when they have an idea with the work that you've done?
Probably the number one thing I hear from a student is, I'd like to do this, but I don't know how, or I don't have the money, or no one supports me. And I guess those all go together. I mean, it's a support system that says, you know, if you have back in the day a roadmap, or today a GPS, you can find yourself to a destination. But these kids don't have a GPS. You know, they watch, you know, TV. They hear, like last night, watching a debate, watching politicians, and really talking over people's heads about crisis in America and what's going on in our world. And here's a child who's 16, 17 years old, sitting in a rural town or even an urban city, thinking about what keeps them awake at night, the thing that drives them, the passion, and no one they can talk to about it who can give them a direction, no one who can give them the plug-in to their GPS and find, where do I need to be in my life, where do I achieve this, how can I achieve this? And then, you know, if they don't have that, before long what happens is they just give up, because no one's there to support them, and they don't believe enough in themselves, and so they walk away from a dream and find themselves in a job. And, you know, I put on my Facebook page, and I try to tell kids this all the time, you know, I live a life I don't need a vacation from. And there's too many people who are just living as, you know, as The Walking Dead would say, as zombies in life, because they're just occupying space to get a check. And that's not life. And so I think the obstacle for these kids is to find there is a way to achieve what's inside of you, and they just need somebody to help them discover really and pinpoint what that is, because when they're young and they're developing in their maturity, they're trying to put handles on it. They're trying to figure out what it is and how it can be fleshed out in life and living. And if someone can come around them who has walked a path, who has experience, who has a network, who can say, if you plug into here, have you tried this? Have you tried that? You can see the lights come on. And so I think it's giving them tools. And unfortunately, there's a lot of kids today who don't have opportunity or access to those tools. And you know this, Yolanda, one of the things we're trying to work at is to provide access to every one of those kids in a form that makes sense to them. So that they do have a chance to grab a hold of it and take off. And so I don't think I'll be satisfied until that happens. It's not enough just to test well. It's not enough just to get a degree. There has to be a process in their life where they have a chance to achieve their passion.
Right. That's so good. That's why I'm so excited about the program at Lipscomb University, and really starting early with kids, letting them know at the college level, and a lot of high schools are doing it as well, letting them know that if they have an idea, they're not too young to get that idea started, especially in the social entrepreneurship space. A lot of young people are seeing need, and I think a lot of times what we're doing is we're sitting around and we're complaining about what those issues are, instead of sitting around at the table, not just with adults, but with young people, saying, how do we impact this issue that we're seeing, and not just sit at the table and talk about what the problem is. And I'm seeing that more and more with young people. I mean, even the example of Tom Shoes, he started years ago, and he also thought, Dylan, that he couldn't have his business and also give back. He wanted to give back, and he didn't realize that he could even have a for-profit business. People told him he couldn't do it, but he was determined to do it. And we look at him now, and he's very successful. And we're seeing in the social entrepreneur or social enterprise space that you can't have ministry in the marketplace. I know I'm called to ministry in the marketplace, and a lot of times what happens is, whether you're in the medical field, whether you're a business owner. I know Bill Lee came to Lipscomb, and he talked about how he wanted to be a missionary, but God says he thinks your impact being a businessman than he felt like he would as a missionary. And so God uses not just us in the church, he uses us in the marketplace. And I want to really begin to have more of those conversations so that young people don't be a business person, because as a marketplace, that is your ministry calling. And so one of the questions I want to ask is someone sitting in, and one of the questions was, what are the pros and cons that you see with either going into a third world area like Jamaica? And a lot of times when you hear Jamaica, people think vacation. They think we're going well. Cons that you see that you run into when you're going into those areas and wanting to start a social enterprise or helping them set up a business. I'm going to go to the Lipscomb student.
Can you repeat the question? You froze there for a moment.
Cons of helping groups in the Jamaica area.
Oh, sure. So through our experience, we had the opportunity to meet a lot of people in Jamaica.
Start businesses.
I have no idea. So while we were there, we went to a gas station, and we met a nice lady, and we bought, some snacks and some drinks early in the morning before church, and we left, and we came back to the States excited, and about 2 weeks later, we saw something on the Jamaican news that said that lady had been shot at gunpoint. So there's obviously, depending on where you're going, a certain amount of danger that you have to face and account for, and take knowledgeable people with you to ensure that you do stay in the right areas, that you only confront the right people, that you aren't going places that will cause conflict that you don't need. There's also, among customs and different things, you have to make sure you follow different guidelines, but safety you know, even going to Africa or other places like that is definitely one of the biggest issues.
One of the other things that we noticed was that
Yeah.
in America we kind of have almost a set way of how, you know, you kind of go about starting a business here, but we don't know the Jamaican culture, and so we're learning that, but also we're working with our entrepreneurs to, you know, get their input and coming alongside them to start those businesses, because they truly know what will work and will not work in their culture and in their areas.
That's good.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's good. Any other feedback?
I think there's also something that we were kind of like learning how to look at their systems and like jobs. So what jobs do they need filled? And something like we talked about earlier today was like agriculture. Well, no one wants to go, you know, the young 16 and 17-year-old males don't want to go into agriculture. They want to be DJs, you know, they want to follow the music path. And so trying to figure out like how they can be interested in what jobs need to be filled, you know, for their economy. It's like it's a negative, you know, feedback loop that we need to fix. So, yeah. No, she froze again.
Yes. But I think part of that learning in that space is to be able to show them the new way of doing farming and how they can make a living from it. A lot of times they've watched their grandmothers, they've watched their grandfathers and mothers, they do it and it was done a different way. So taking the new things over and letting them see how it can be profitable business and how it can be set up as a business. I think with young people, if you don't show them how it's done in other places and how people are being really successful in it, then they still, in their head, they see their grandfather doing the farming or their mother, and they struggled, and they see the struggle part of it. They don't see the profit part of it or how it can impact their families. And so I think you're right to find out what is needed on the ground. A lot of times we go into third world countries and we think we have all the answers, when the people on the ground have the majority of them. They just need some support in making those things happen. So I was glad to hear that you guys are really talking and spending time with those on the ground to see what the needs are. Esther, kind of what's been the pros and cons for you starting your social enterprise? I know I've worked with you a little bit, and I know, you know, when you first start, you're ready to go, and you're like, we want it to be huge. And so talk to us a little bit about what's been the pros and cons, things that you found out that you really wasn't sure of.
Well, definitely a pro is that I've been so much happier ever since I started my social enterprise. I'm so in love with it. Although it's hard work, it's like my baby. So whenever I have to leave it for a few seconds, I get sad. But cons, I mean, honestly, the money. I know it's something that people always like young people always say I don't have the money, and it doesn't take too much money to start, but just keeping up with it, and it's different than keeping up with my personal bank account. Now it's a business bank account, so there are some new rules. You know, learning all the new rules is definitely something that was shocking to me, and all that paperwork, and that's why I was glad that you were there. You were there to help me.
Yeah.
But definitely also having a coach there to help you with every step of the way was definitely a pro, because it's definitely easy to get lost in everything when you're so young. But it's definitely all worth it. There's not a time where it's the right time. Like, if you feel in your heart that you have to start. Go ahead. Don't, you know, even if college is there, high school, wherever you are, go ahead and start.
Great. That's great. Scott, I want to come to you. I want to ask you a question about the pros and cons of parent support. What have you seen when a child has a dream or desire, but they had family support or they didn't have family support? How did you see that impacting that young person?
Let me give you a real life example, because I have one living with me right now.
I know you do.
I have a student living with us right now who has no parental support. This young man has a passion to fulfill what's inside of him, and it's a unique thing. I mean, he is called to theater, to drama, to music, and has no support because there's not an understanding, because there's not a history of that in his family. Yeah. And so there's almost the fear factor, just like living in Nashville. I mean, obviously every waiter is probably a musician, so they see their son's future not being very positive. When as in his eyes, he's being very mature about it, understanding that although he may not be on Broadway, there may be an aspect of theater that he can be, whether it's a teaching or doing classes, whatever it is. He wants his life to be a part of that. Well, the con of that is I see him fight depression daily. I watch him deal with fear daily, and there's not many days that go by. Even today, right now, he's actually away, and he Facebooked us and said, I'm a little bit afraid about this weekend. And this kid's on a national tour right now. He's 15 years old on a national tour, getting paid not only to practice but to perform, and that's just the quality of who he is. And yet, because the support's not there, he starts to have self-doubt. He starts to believe some of the naysayers in his life, and so it's a constant struggle for us to lift him up. I mean, we're leaving Sunday to go to Paducah, Kentucky. He's at a theater finally close enough to Nashville. This whole past spring and summer, he's been in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, all these cities, flying around doing this national tour, and he's the youngest one on the tour. And even being this close to home, his family's not even going to see his show. That to me is a very difficult thing to see and look into his eyes and know the people he wants. It's one thing for him to hear it from me and my wife and my family. Man, you're doing a great job. We can't wait to come and see you. It's another thing when his parent calls him and says, we're going to be there.
Yes.
And they're just not. They're just not. And I wish that was one story out of a million, but that's obviously a lot higher percentage in this country.
Yes.
There's this fear factor because parents have grown up the students at Lipscomb know this. I mean, they have grown up as natives to a digital generation.
Yes.
Their parents weren't. Their parents were immigrants. They came through. It was created during their time. And so when you talk about, I'm going to have a YouTube channel, I'm going to do this on the internet, I'm going to do this with Facebook, I've got this built up in social media, parents' eyes start bugging out because they really don't have a grasp of that. And so there's this disconnect to support that. And whereas the child could probably teach the parent much more about what they're doing in their own business.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most frustrating thing, and I think that's going to be the obstacle beyond. I heard Esther talk about finances. That's always going to be there, and if I could encourage Esther, I would just say, you know what, God will provide. There will always be resources.
Yes.
The key is to not quit.
Yes.
The key is to keep your passion, to keep your focus on what that end goal is. And really not even about the destination, but focus on you're in the journey, and that journey is going to give you so many things that you can't even think about right now that's going to put a smile on your face. And I think that for this young man, and I think that for every student, is that they have to get their eyes off just the destination. It's not just I want to be in theater. Okay, great. Let's enjoy the journey. Because if you don't, you're going to miss the moment.
Absolutely.
And the moments are happening every day. And I think that's the obstacle for these kids. They've got to find the support system that says, what keeps you awake at night, and the passion that burns in your soul was not put there by you eating something weird before you went to bed. And it was not put there because you talked to somebody or sat beside somebody in school in the 10th grade who influenced your life.
Exactly.
That may or may not have happened, but the truth is we know that God plants in each person something unique.
Absolutely.
And there's a special calling. I mean, that's what Jeremiah says. I know the plans I have for you. Unfortunately, parents don't want to let loose of that too many times. And I think if they could learn to, and it's, I don't want to ramble here, but I'm thinking of so many kids right now who are even from wealthy homes. I'm thinking of a kid right now who I know who has everything in the world, goes to private schools, everything laid out before them, and yet has to go to a grandfather and say, I don't want to do what my parents did. This is what I want to do. And you know that story, Yolanda. I won't go into that, but that's it. I mean, I think the con is overcoming, and for me, even emotionally, is to see what it does to them, and to know every day that there are kids giving up on their dreams because of it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so it's so important to have those coaches or mentors that you're talking to. If you have an idea to start a business, that you have people around you that support what you're doing and tell you what the reality is of it, because starting your own business and starting a social enterprise or just going into mission, it's hard work. But when you know that that's what you're called to do, get around people that will help support that. It's so important to also network. It's so important that you're going to meet with people that have done it before. And I know you guys know about the whale because you're at Lipscomb. And Rob was a student. It wasn't that. It was a paper he wrote, and it became a business. So I encourage you guys not to give up on what you know you've called to do, whether it's in business and you'll have a social impact side of your business. You can do it. You don't have to only do that kind of work in the church. You can do it in the marketplace. And the last question I'm gonna ask you guys is, what is one thing that you would tell someone that's thinking about starting a social enterprise, going on a mission trip? What is the one thing you would tell them if they asked you about doing that? What was one thing that you would say to them? Esther, I'm gonna start with you.
I just always believe to go for it. You know,
Yeah.
There's, like I said, there's never like a right time. If you feel it in your heart, you just gotta go. And if you are blessed, I feel like you have every ability to be a blessing onto someone else. So that's what I leave with. Yeah.
Right. And before I go on to the next person, can you give everybody that's watching the website address of Esther Nzuzi, how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. Okay. So I'll give everyone a moment to get out a paper and pen because my middle name's a little hard to spell. But it's www.esther, which is spelled ESTHER, Nzuzi, NZUZI.com. And if you click shop, there's all these little great crazy print hand cross-shoulder bags. And they're cheap too, $20. But a percentage of profit does go to the Women of the Village and the Sewing Machine Program in order for them to be able to provide for their families. Thank you.
I'm so excited about that, and just I've seen it grow, and people are buying the bags. And so I wanted to encourage people, if you're watching tonight, go to that website, order your bag. It's only $20, and just think about the women in the Congo that you will be helping. So thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
Okay, my Lipscomb students, what is one thing you would tell someone that's looking to go on a mission trip or interested in starting a social enterprise? What is one thing you would leave with them?
I would say, because this is something I struggle with myself, is to not let fear stop them from something that they want to do, that they're striving after. So it's, don't let fear stop you. And we have this lie we're constantly battling within our minds that we're not good enough, but we are. And God wants to use us and wants to use our gifts. So
great.
Sure.
Yeah. One of the other things, just like Esther was talking about, is like the finances, and Scott talked about too, is one of the things that we've noticed is finances, are always going to be a fear, but they will work out. And no matter what, don't let finances stop you from going on a mission trip, from starting a social enterprise. Everything will always work out. You just have to have faith in it. And it's been amazing so far. We've just started this journey really this semester, and how the connections have just come together and how the finances are coming together just to make everything happen.
Yes, great. Dylan?
So one thing that Mr. Touchstone talks about with class is using that hurt that you've seen in your life and just allowing that to be the platform for the people you choose to reach out to. Look in your life, see what you're passionate about, what really resonates with your heart, and go for it. And then the other piece of advice I'd recommend is be open to opportunities. If somebody gives you an opportunity to go, take it. You never know what experience you'll have. You don't know how the people will impact you, or being in a new environment can just affect your life in a positive way. So just go for it.
Right. Can one of you guys share give the name of the department that you guys work with Rob Touchstone, and kind of give that information so people will know that is happening on Lipscomb's campus?
Sure. It's the Missional Entrepreneurship Department, and we are under the College of Business at Lipscomb University.
Great. You guys hear that? That is at Lipscomb University, Nashville, Tennessee. I always give myself away. I'm a native Nashvilleian, and when I come to campus, I always say David Lipscomb. They look at me really weird. I'm like, well, that used to be the name. That was the name. They know I'm like a native when I say David Lipscomb. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. It's been great, and I'm just excited about the work that you guys are doing and what you're going to do. I know you'll do great things even down the road. And I'm going to have Scott close us out and just share just an inspirational word to young people that are looking to launch projects, launch businesses. Scott?
Yeah, I think if I was going to look at a student right now and talk to them one-on-one, the first thing, and you heard some of the students at Lipscomb say it, I mean, you have to overcome your fear.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you're 50 or you're 20 or you're 10. There's going to be moments, and I believe in life there are seasons, and I think as children grow into teen years and then on to college, those are seasons, and so your fears change with the seasons you pass. And so when you look at people that you're around, and the enemy loves to isolate people, loves to make people feel like they're the only one that thinks this way, they're the only one that feels this way. If you can overcome that and make yourself aware of that you're not, and that others are in the same struggle at some point, then you can, at that point, grab a hold of that and use it as a launching pad, and like we like to say at our house, look at Satan and say, "Suck it, Satan," and move forward. And that's that's Peyton's favorite statement.
Yeah.
That no matter what you're getting ready to go after, that you have to know that somebody has you. And if it's a spiritual awakening for yourself, then that's going to be the best platform you could ever find yourself in. Not everybody has that, and if there are people listening who doesn't, the first thing I would tell you is you've got to seek out why you were created. And once you find out why you're created, you're going to find that you are a social being, and that relationship goes beyond just the vertical with the man upstairs who created you, but those around us that we were created to make an impact with. And I think the best thing for each of us to find out, and those at Lipscomb and up there at New York University with Esther, and here in Nashville, is to understand every day is an opportunity socially to make an impact.
Yes.
That it's just preparing you for when you go to Jamaica. It's preparing you for when you have that encounter. That the moment you are in a restaurant, the moment you're at a bowling alley, the moment you're on a stage, wherever you find yourself, you are having a chance to socially impact somebody's life and really change the direction of their lives. I'm going to be very transparent. And you're going to laugh, Yolanda, because you know this. Over the last 2.5 months, I've been on a theater stage,
Yes,
and
you have.
with a group of people that I did not even know when I went into the auditions. And 7 of those students are going to be spending the night at my house tomorrow night.
Oh.
Now, it'll be loud, it'll be obnoxious, but what I found in that experiment of being on that stage with these folks is that I had a chance to engage 40 people that I didn't know. And to find out what their passions are, and in the midst of that, encourage them to lay aside. I had one student who just finished here in town at a local college, and I asked him one afternoon, I said, "What do you want to do with your life?" He said, "I want to go on Broadway." And I said, "Why are you waiting?" And his excuse was, "I want to get my life to a point where I don't have a car payment." And the first thing I said to him was, if you don't have a car payment, you're going to pay off something else. There's always going to be a reason to make you fearful. There's always going to be an excuse not to go. There's always going to be an excuse not to take the first step. And so what you've got to do is you've got to overcome it. You've got to recognize the season you're in, and you've got to take the risk and step over the line and say, it's worth the risk. And then you'll be surprised what takes place. The people you meet, the places you go, the doors that open, it's all from taking that first step. So I think if I could encourage anyone tonight, it would be that. There are people I know listening right now who have been where these students at Lipscomb are, who are being where we are right now, and for some reason or not, they've sat where they're sitting and they've convinced themselves that they can't do it. And I would just say, quit believing the lie.
Absolutely.
And get up tomorrow and go commit yourself by telling somebody what you're going to do. Don't just tell yourself. Go tell somebody else so you're committed to it, and have them hold you accountable to it so you can't hide behind fear.
That's so good, Scott. That is so good. And that's one of the things I see a lot is that fear. And when you get on the other side, even in the fear move, a lot of times when you get on the other side of that fear, you're like, why was I so fearful? It's not that bad. And so I would encourage you, social entrepreneurship, those that are watching and my guests, social entrepreneurship is just starting a business, but starting it based on meeting a need. That's all it is. If you're going to start a business, whether you're in Jamaica or whether you're in the Congo, you're looking at the need on the ground and you're saying, how can I help impact this need on the ground by starting a business that can support the people in that village or in that community, or how can I do something in the U.S. that's going to impact the lives of those people in that village area, in Jamaica area, wherever you are. That's what it is. And so I would encourage you, if you have an idea, go for it. Go for it. Find people that will support you. Find networking groups that you can talk to. There's the Entrepreneur Center in town. I do a lot of coaching and training. Lipscomb and some of the other universities work with entrepreneurs. But step out and make that difference. We can do it. We can be ministry in the marketplace, and we can do business as mission. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight for Table Talk with the focus on social entrepreneurship. You can reach me on Twitter at YESHIELDS. My initials is yes, but it's YE Shields on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram under Yolanda Shields and also on Facebook. I look forward to talking with you next time, and I thank you again for joining us. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight.
Mm-hmm.